Three of the final pre-season test ahead of the new Formula One season. We can cross live to Craig Slater, who's at the Circuit de Catalunya. Very good morning to you, Craig. What will the teams be looking to do today? There you are.
Well, we're getting very close to the end of testing now, so it's more or less about finalising and finessing the product as best they can ahead of Melbourne. We'll see race simulations and we'll see some qualifying simulations probably around lunchtime. That's been typical over the last couple of days, but there was a real stir here in the pit lane this morning around the Ferrari garage, because just after running got underway at 9 o'clock in the morning, Kimi Räikkönen came out from behind the covers and we got the first sight of a Formula One car with the new Halo cockpit protection concept. This has been pioneered and designed by the Mercedes team. Ferrari were trialling it today. Various solutions have been looked at, including fighter jet, closed cockpits. But this is the one which has been adopted. You will see it has that central pillar, which partly obscures the driver's view, but perhaps it is the best all-round solution. Let's get the viewpoints of a former Formula One driver. We've got Jos Verstappen here, Max Verstappen's father. But yeah, we had a little look at this new Halo idea. What do you think? Do you think it works?
Well, I've seen it. It doesn't look too bad, to be honest. I don't know if it disturbs the vision for the driver, but is it for the safety? I don't see a problem, to be honest. So I'm fine with it.
I mean, you've had a fire in the car, so maybe a closed cockpit in that scenario would be a bad thing. You've been hit by a stone. I mean, Felipe Massa was hit by a spring, a small item, but that wouldn't protect against something like that.
No, but I think it's for the bigger parts, isn't it? We have seen it last year that things can happen like that, and also with Jules, of course, in Japan. So I think in certain cases definitely will help. Certain cases it make no difference. But I think the FIA will have a close look at it, and we will see what they will decide.
Just a quick word about Max today. The car looks good. A lot of laps for Carlos Sainz yesterday. Are you optimistic that this can be an even better season for Max after a terrific debut year?
We're always optimistic. I mean, it's the beginning of the season. Hopefully the car performs well and that we can challenge some guys in front of us. Let's hope and wait and see. I mean, we don't know how fast we will go. And I think Australia is the first time we really see where we are. And then we will see how the season will go. But it looks good what you say, the car. They did really good work on it. We have a good engine, I think, so we all are very optimistic.
The team wants a podium this year. If Max gets the chance, would you be confident he'll take it?
Always. He will go for it. What we have seen last year, I don't think he changed his approach in the race, so he will go for it all the time.
Thanks for talking to us, Jos. Jos, one of several fathers who've been here during testing week. We saw Keke Rosberg yesterday, Nico Rosberg father. Anthony Hamilton was watching Lewis Hamilton as well on day one. But it's been 8 years since Toro Rosso last were on the podium. That was with Sebastian Vettel. That's their sole podium finish. That was a win, though.
Thank you very much, Craig.
Our Ferrari have tested a new device to improve driver safety on the penultimate day of pre-season testing in Barcelona. We can cross live to Craig Slater at the Circuit de Catalunya in the sunshine once again. Now, Craig, what's the reaction been like to the Halo device the FIA are hoping to introduce next season?
Well, Rob, it was something of a surprise this morning that Ferrari were trialling this on their car. They were doing so to check the driver's visibility. It was made of carbon fibre rather than steel, which is how it will eventually be constructed if it does end up on the car itself. Ted Kravitz is alongside me just to consider the issues that Formula One is wrestling with regard to this. There has already been criticism of how it looks, Ted. But is the bottom line here whether or not it can save lives? I mean, there have been 5 or so high-profile fatalities in open cockpit racing over the last half dozen years or so. how many of them, and it's a sensitive subject and we can't treat it lightly, but might some of those lives have been saved had something like this been on the cars?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, there have been 5 or 6 injuries that have led to deaths or deaths in open wheel racing, in IndyCar and in Formula One in the last sort of 6 or 7 years. And I think a large percentage of them, the drivers probably would have been saved either the major injuries they sustained or anything else from this head protection. So Maria de Villota had an accident in the Marussia where she went at slow speed into a truck tail lift that was left in the down position. It's thought that the central pillar might have saved her then, but we don't know for sure. Henry Surtees was hit by a flying wheel in a Formula 2 race. Again, we can't say for sure, but you would imagine the central element of that halo protection might have been in the right position for a flying wheel and might have absorbed some of the impact. We don't know what would have happened then, whether the halo would have then come down onto the driver's helmet and caused a worse accident. Felipe Massa it was a serious accident. He was hit by a spring that came off another car. Again, the lateral bar of the halo might have been in the right position to deflect the spring elsewhere, so he wouldn't have been injured above his left eye. Dan Weldon in the US, we don't think that had IndyCar had this, it would have actually helped him, unfortunately. Jules Bianchi, likewise, such was the impact with the JCB digger. But Justin Wilson was hit by a nose cone in America, and it's thought perhaps, again, if the central part, the strongest part of the halo protection was in the right place, then perhaps it would have saved Justin Wilson's life. But again, as you say, impossible to know, but just a sort of rough guide ballpark area study suggests that even if it saves one life, then it's probably worth having.
Jenson Button noting a few weeks ago, we've had enough in F1. Something needs to change with regard to protection. Visibility, however, might be an issue. That was the reason for the trial this morning. Kimi Räikkönen observed simply that it was okay. We've got a kind of point of view angle of what it looks like to try and see around this central pillar, as it were. Difficult to really judge without being in the seat of a car going around at 200 miles an hour, but that will be one of the things that they'll have to probably have further trials on.
Well, if Kimi Räikkönen says it's okay, then most other drivers will probably say that was very good indeed and much better than I thought. And you tend to get a sort of short answers with Kimi Räikkönen, and he also tends to say what he thinks. But we've only heard that second hand from his Ferrari team. So let's wait and speak to Kimi ourselves later in the day. There we can quiz him a little further on that, I think. 2 issues: can they see the start lights? I'm not so sure with a bit. And can they see other drivers around them, which might cause another accident? So we need to investigate that further.
Ted, thanks very much. Yeah, they are trialling this device. It may come in next season, conceivably, but possibly it might take a little bit longer than that. But safety, of course, is paramount with regard to bringing this in. And Daniel Ricciardo was saying just last week it might be the final piece in the jigsaw with regard to protecting drivers on track.
Gentlemen, thank you both very much indeed.
Ferrari provided a surprise on the penultimate morning of pre-season testing by trying out the Halo device that's been put forward to improve driver safety in Formula One. Well, Kimi Räikkönen tested the Halo concept for visibility over 1 lap in Barcelona this morning. The aim is to protect the driver's head in the event of a crash and is an alternative to a closed cockpit. Well, this is what the view might look like with the halo attached to the car. Several teams are working on designs. The sports governing body, the FIA, are looking to introduce it next season. Räikkönen also set the fastest time of winter testing so far this morning. That's on ultra soft tyres. Topped the timesheets half a second quicker than Force India's Nico Hülkenberg on the same tyres. Well, Nico Rosberg completed 81 laps this morning and set the 4th quickest time. He stuck to the slower medium tyres for the whole session and hands over to Lewis Hamilton this afternoon.
It's really a massive massive step in safety, because most fatalities that we had in racing in the last years, this would have saved those people, you know, really the large majority. So it's a huge step, and I think it's definitely needed. Okay, visually you can say that it's not quite as good as now, but from some angles, even like from the front, I saw before on Kimi's car, it looked very cool actually. So I think with a bit of you know, thinking about it, it can even look cool eventually. So I'm all for it.
Back to the sun-kissed paddock here in Barcelona, and with Max Verstappen, who's very time efficient as a driver, and he's agreed to do this interview while he walks from the hospitality back to the garage. But how about your times on track today, Max? Are they satisfying you?
Yeah, I think it was not too bad. I mean, for us, the most important is still, you know, to discover the car. It's still not about lap times, and yeah, I mean, the car keeps running. We don't have big issues, so I think that's always very positive.
Fair enough, but the speculation is that you might start the season rather, as a team ahead of Red Bull. What about that one?
Who knows? I mean, we always try to be up front as much as we can, but we have to wait and see. We just try to do our best.
Because you have this Ferrari power units, which they reckon might give you up to 0.8 of a second per lap. Are you going to be less vulnerable on the straights? And is this advantage, if it is moving the car on a bit, is it only going to last for the first half of the season? Do you have to make the most of it early on?
Well, I hope longer than that. But we just have to keep improving. We have to keep improving the car as well. And then we have to wait and see. But definitely our advantage should be in the beginning.
Just a couple of little things to finish before I know you know you've got to go, but a lot of discussion about driver weight at the moment. You're quite a tall guy. Have you had to lose a few pounds? I know your teammate Carlos Sainz has been asked to drop a little bit of weight, or are you comfortable with what's been asked of you?
Well, I mean, like you said, I'm quite a tall driver, so you have to watch your weight, that's for sure.
Fair enough. And just finally then, going away from here, we've had a drivers' meeting last night. There's a lot of debate about how rules might change and qualifying might change. Are you getting involved in that at all? Is it right that drivers have a say in how the Grand Prix weekend is structured?
I think it would be nice to just have your say, and then from there on we just have to wait and see, you know, what they come up with. But at the end, you know, I enjoy driving, and it doesn't matter in which qualifying format.
And one last thing, Johan Cruyff was in the hospitality with you yesterday. He made a point of coming here to come and support you. I know he's from an era before you were maybe getting interested in football, but what is that like? And when he says this guy can be as big a Dutch icon as I am, is that an easy thing to hear?
Well, it's definitely very nice to hear, and especially, you know, such a big icon in Holland, and even here in Spain, you know, to meet him up here is definitely very special for me.
Great stuff, Max. We look forward to you performing as you did last season, this season, and Toro Rosso really do believe they can get a podium last year. They've only had one before, and Sebastian Vettel stood on the top step of it. 18 years old he is. He could be the youngest person ever to stand on an F1 podium. Goodbye.
Formula One teams are continuing testing in Barcelona today. We can cross live to Craig Slater, who is at the Circuit de Catalunya. Craig.
Thank you very much indeed, and as you can see, I'm treated as a little bit of a celebrity around here. I'm drawing huge crowds. No, they're not here to see me. They're here to see Daniel Ricciardo, the Red Bull driver. It's decent
to be on TV.
Possibly, yeah. Let's hope they don't intervene in any difficult manner. But it looks like a decent test. Can you have a year this year that can avoid all the kind of engine and gearbox penalties that you had last year? And did they, in a way, skew the fight between yourself and Daniel Kvyat?
I mean, you're always going to have some races where things don't go your way, and reliability is something in F1 which you sort of got to deal with or expect. This year should be better, hopefully, yeah, better for me than anyone else on the grid. But we'll see. We've definitely had a better pre-season so far, so for now we can just be positive with that and take that into Melbourne and hope Melbourne works out well for us.
And the big bosses have been here, Dietrich Mateschitz. Did you spend any time with him? Did you have a conversation? Did he reassure you that he is going to provide the funds to take this team back to the very front?
Yeah, I've spoken to him a little bit, and I mean, he's definitely keen to see the team and us get back to the front. He's motivated, and I mean, yeah, there's probably better things to do than, you know, come here and watch a bit of testing. especially if you're in Dietrich's position. But he obviously cares, and he's very passionate about the project. So, yeah, it's everything's there for us to really try and go forward, maximise everything. So, yeah, I feel this year will be a year for us to maximise opportunity and get back on our more podium and hopefully winning ways.
Maybe towards the second half of the year, possibly. But there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes in F1 at the moment. There was a drivers' meeting yesterday, which I know you weren't part of, discussing some issues about the new season. Should you have been there, or is that kind of thing, that the definition of the rules and what happens, something that as a driver you think, well, I've just got to deal with it. It's not for me to write the rules.
Yeah, I didn't know it was on, to be honest, but I think because we had our engineers meeting, and I think the team were aware of it, but obviously we prioritised that for yesterday evening. But yeah, it's important for us drivers to understand what's going on with the sport. Obviously we are a big part of it, so yeah, we'll see what happened yesterday. But I mean, there's going to be rule changes coming in through this year, and even more so for 2017. So, you know, I think at the same time the sport's not in such of a bad place as some people think it is. You know, it's still, I think, great, but we just want to make it greater.
Let's just finish by getting the gloves on a little bit and talking boxing in a sense. We were joking about ring announcers and so on, but your fighting weight's been a bit of an issue. I mean, you're just about 6 foot tall, but 68, yes, 68 kilos though you've got down to. I mean, you're looking slim. That's pretty much welterweight. You know, that's kind of Ricky Hatton, Floyd Mayweather fighting weight. That doesn't seem sufficient for someone like you. Is it an issue for you? Are you having to lose too much weight?
No, to be honest, it's I would say some of it's probably been blown out of proportion, and I probably brought it up too many times, so maybe that's my fault. But I mean, you know, this year is a bit tighter than what it was last year. So this year's sort of more like 2014, where I've just got to manage pre-season a little bit more closely, and yeah, just, you know, clean up little bits of training and diet a bit more. But yeah, so I'm at the moment I'm sort of 70, and if I, you know, start Melbourne at 69, then that's fine, and I still feel healthy, so it's all good. It's not what it sounds. And the fight has cut a lot of weight, so I'm not complaining.
One last thing then, where are you going to be in Melbourne? I mean, can you fight for the podium if maybe one or two little things go your way?
Yeah, the way I see it is we're on the grid, everyone's there, jacked up, ready to go, and then Melbourne brings down one of its beautiful storms, and it helps us out towards the podium.
Your way is it? He's a fan's favourite, isn't he? Daniel Ricciardo, do we want to see him back fighting at the front again? I think they do. There is, I know. Well, yeah, maybe it's testing, it's hard work, but we get down to the racing sooner or later, and we want to see this man punching his weight properly at the front of the field again, sooner rather than later. Good man.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Craig. Now, the Halo device that's been put forward to improve driver safety in F1 made its public debut on track at pre-season testing in Barcelona. Ferrari's Kimi Räikkönen tested the Halo concept for visibility this morning over one lap. The aim is to protect the driver's head in the event of a crash and is an alternative to a closed cockpit. Well, this is what it might look like with the Halo attached to the car. Several teams are working on designs, and the sports governing body, the FIA, are looking to introduce it next season.
I think it's good that teams are trying it. We've tried it on our simulator and so on. We're concerned with some visibility issues on it. Of course, safety and head protection is, crucial importance. Personally, I'm not a fan of that system. I think we can do better than that with something a bit more elegant, rather than a big piece of carbon fiber right in front of the driver's face.
Well, Rosberg completed 81 laps this morning and set the fourth quickest time. He stuck to the slower medium tyres for the whole session and has handed over to Lewis Hamilton this afternoon. Well, it was Räikkönen who set the fastest time of winter testing so far in the ultra-soft tyres. He topped the timesheets this morning, half a second quicker than Force India's Nico Hülkenberg, who was on the same tyres. And we can cross back to Craig Slater, who is at the Circuit de Catalunya.
Thank you very much, and welcome back to what is a noisy, atmospheric, smelly pit lane, I suppose, as much as anything else. You can smell the burning rubber and the fuel down here, and very busy at the moment. I've just dropped in on Toro Rosso for a quick word with James Key. We're trying to put a picture together of who stands where. What's your best guess at the moment of where Toro Rosso are?
Oh, where Toro Rosso is. I think all we can say probably is that Mercedes are pretty strong. Where we sit in the pecking order, I think it's really difficult to say. I think it's, you know, we haven't done any real performance stuff yet, and we won't probably see much of that until Melbourne from everyone, my guess is. So that's probably when we're going to tell. My guess is it's going to be tight between us, Red Bull, Williams, Force India. You know, maybe I'm wrong, but that's where we think we probably are.
Quite a feather in your cap if you could be ahead of Red Bull at the start of the season. That hasn't been the case for a long time. This hero-owned Ferrari power unit that you have, Christian Horner says it's worth 0.8 of a second a lap. Is that accurate?
I don't think it's quite that, to be honest with you. But, you know, we're still learning the power unit right now, even though it's been a couple of weeks of testing. There's a lot to get right around the systems on both the car and within the power unit to match it all up. It's so complicated, you know, you've got to try and match everything up in some way with control systems, the temperatures you're running out, all this sort of stuff. So I think it's not quite that, to be honest, but it's a little bit of a step over last year, you know.
Might give you some outright pace, which you could maybe use in qualifying, whichever format of qualifying we have. Do you know what's going to happen in Melbourne? Do you know the way qualifying is to run, or is it still being finalised?
I mean, I've probably heard as much as you in that respect. It's a bit transient this week, but I think my understanding is that Q3 will be based on what we know, which is good because the top 10 shootout is, you know, kind of an exciting period. And then the dropout will be somehow combined with Q1 and Q2, which I think is the latest state of play. Whether that changes now, I don't know, but that's what I believe was in some way discussed this week, and it appears to have been agreed.
Fair enough, but it's interesting. I was talking just before we came on air about the potential for a Formula One team to do what Leicester have done in football this year, so on a modest budget, lead the league or win things, you know, take big scalps. This team did win a race with Sebastian Vettel a few years ago. Do you think those days are gone in F1, or could we see some good leaders within a team get a good group of people together and take a modestly funded team to the very front?
I think it's tricky because we're fighting against guys who are backed by manufacturers and have enormous budgets. And, you know, it's not about how clever you are technically. In many ways, you need to be slightly cleverer with a smaller budget because you're competing with much less means. So it's actually about budget, really. You know, the more budget you have, the more you can do. And I think it's possible to punch above your weight. But, you know, nowadays, without wanting to be controversial, nowadays you've also got to make your own power unit to integrate all that stuff together. There's only a couple of teams that can do that right now. So I think it's harder now than maybe it was 5 years ago.
Stuff. Thanks very much for taking the time, James. Yeah, it's a busy man down here. Busy pit walls and garages you can see up and down the pit lane as testing really does ramp up its intensity. We've only got about a day and a few hours left before the teams have to pack up and get ready for Melbourne.
The breaking news concerns the second...
Now, the Halo device, put forward to improve driver safety in Formula One, has made its public debut on track at the pre-season testing in Barcelona. This is what it might look like from a driver's point of view. The sports governing body, the FIA, are looking to introduce it next season. Several teams are working on designs, but it's had a mixed review so far.
There are certain things that come into Formula One and you hate the look of them or you hate the sound of them, you know. I think we all hated putting a hands device on for, you know, underneath our seatbelts to stop the head from hitting the steering wheel or getting whiplash. But after 3 races, you know, you get used to it, you get used to the pain and you adapt to it. The same with the Halo. It doesn't look good, but it's for a great reason. And I think after a few races, you'll look at the car and you'll think it looks great. Not sure how we're going to get out in 5 seconds, but I think it's something that is needed in the sport.
Well, now, Ferrari surprised everyone at pre-season testing this morning by trialling the new Halo cockpit device aimed at improving driver safety. Ferrari's Kimi Räikkönen tested the Halo for visibility this morning over 1 lap. The sports governing body The FIA are looking to introduce it next season with a view to protecting the driver's head in the event, of course, of a crash. This is what it might look like from the driver's point of view. Several teams are working on design as an alternative to a closed cockpit, but it's had mixed reviews so far.
There are certain things that come into Formula One and you hate the look of them or you hate the sound of them. You know, I think we all hated putting a hands device on for, underneath our seatbelts to stop the head from hitting the steering wheel or getting whiplash. But after 3 races, you get used to it. You get used to the pain and you adapt to it. The same with the Halo. It doesn't look good, but it's for a great reason. And I think after a few races, you'll look at the car and you'll think it looks great. Not sure how we're going to get out in 5 seconds, but I think it's something that is needed in the sport.
I think it's good that teams are trying it. We've tried it on our simulator and so on. We're concerned with some visibility issues on it. Of course, safety and head protection is, crucial importance. Personally, I'm not a fan of that system. I think we can do better than that with something a bit more elegant, rather than a big piece of carbon fiber right in front of the driver's face.
It's really a massive step in safety because most fatalities that we had in racing in the last years, this would have saved those people, really the large majority. So it's a huge step and I think it's definitely needed. Visually you can say that it's not quite as good as now, but from some angles, even like from the front I saw before on Kimi's car, it looked very cool actually. So I think with a bit of thinking about it, it can even look cool eventually, so I'm all for it.
He's all for it. Well, Rosberg completed 81 laps this morning, set the 4th quickest time. He stuck to the slower medium tyres for the whole session and says he's ready for the first race of the season already.
For sure, it's gone very well, yeah, definitely. Made the most of this limited amount of days, so I'm pleased about that. And yeah, yesterday I felt ready for Melbourne, after the race simulation that we did, which felt good. Ready to go. Now everything is just an extra bonus, and today, this morning was really great as well because kept everything constant, fuel and tires and everything, and just did setup work. Every time going out with a different setup just to try and learn about the new car, and I really learned a lot.
Lewis Hamilton took over for Mercedes this afternoon. He completed 63 laps. Wasn't working in pace, clearly. He was 11th fastest overall. It's been another frustrating day for the new team, Haas. Romain Grosjean ended up in the gravel 3 times today, missed 2 hours of running. Yesterday, Esteban Gutierrez only managed an installation lap due to a turbo problem. It was Raikkonen who set the fastest time of winter testing. That was this morning on the ultra-soft tyres. He did it over 130 laps in the Ferrari today and also beat the best Mercedes time on soft tyres. Sky Sports F1,
at the Circuit de Catalunya right now. Good evening to you, Craig. What's the reaction been then to this new Halo device?
A mixed reaction. Funny enough, I've just come from Lewis Hamilton's briefing with the written press, and when he was asked about his verdict, he gave a kind of rueful smile. He's very much in the traditionalist category who thinks that open cockpit racing should just be that. But, it's a very serious subject. There have been 5 high-profile fatalities in open-wheeled, open cockpit racing since 2009, and a lot of the drivers think enough is enough and that some form of protection has to come in. But here's a little cross-section of the views we gained in the paddock today.
Well, obviously a slightly different view. A little bit limited in the front, but obviously I don't think it's the final version, so surprisingly little different, so it's, I'm sure you'll get used to it.
Don't do it.
Why not?
Because I don't know, I think it sends the wrong message, safety. I think F1 is very safety at the moment as we are, and for me it looks horrible. I don't like it, and I don't know, it's just one of these, personal things that I wouldn't like to see it.
I think it's definitely needed. Visually you can say that it's not quite as good as now, but from some angles, even like from the front I saw before on Kimi's car, it looked very cool actually. So I think with a bit of thinking about it, it can even look cool eventually. So I'm all for it.
Craig Slater deciding to have a little snooze out there at the Circuit de Catalunya. Just a little kind of... That's fine.
Poor
That's
Craig.
Fine. This is why Kirsty and I are here. It's day 2 at the Track Cycling World.
Could catch on. Now, Ferrari surprised everyone on the penultimate day of pre-season testing in Barcelona. They tried out the new Halo cockpit device aimed at improving driver safety, but it's had mixed reviews.
It was hello to the Halo in Barcelona, the new cockpit protection device designed to shield drivers from flying debris. The Halo could come into F1 next season. For the first time it's been seen on a car. Ferrari's Kimi Raikkonen tested the Halo for one installation lap and then gave this verdict.
Slightly different view, a little bit limited in the front, but it was the final sense. So, I mean, surprisingly a little different.
This is the view that Raikkonen had, looking past a narrow centre column. Some say the Halo goes against the F1 tradition of open cockpits.
Don't do it.
Why not?
Because I don't know, I think it sends the wrong message, you know, safety. I think F1 is very safety at the moment as we are, and for me it looks horrible. I don't like it.
I think we can do better than that with something a bit more elegant rather than a big piece of carbon fibre right in front of the driver's face.
The Halo comes after Felipe Massa was seriously hurt by flying debris in Hungary. Jules Bianchi died after a head impact crashing in Japan. And IndyCar driver Justin Wilson was killed by flying debris last summer.
Most fatalities that we had in racing in the last years, this would have saved those people, you know, really the large majority. So it's a huge step, and I think it's definitely needed.
On the penultimate day in Barcelona, Raikkonen's Ferrari minus Halo set the fastest time of winter testing so far on ultra-soft tyres. He was also quicker than Mercedes on soft tyres too. Rosberg ran on medium tyres for 81 laps to post a 5th quickest time. Then Lewis Hamilton had the car in the afternoon. The world champion did a further 63 laps on mediums. Mercedes testing orange, green and pink pit boards while he did so. Fernando Alonso was on the track for 118 laps, meaning centuries on back-to-back days for McLaren. Alonso only 7th quickest though on super soft rubber. But Romain Grosjean was red flagged 3 times for Haas. The vehicle that Grosjean left the pits in was not always the one he came back in. Jeremy Langdon, Sky Sports.
Now the second